thought about doing this as a point of topic for a bit, but been too pussy to post it, but who the fuck cares? I just saw Queen Sovereign do a video on baby mama culture and how that's actually how it's supposed to be. Meaning that women were actually the ones who were just supposed to be taking care of the kids. The fathers aren't really even supposed to be involved, except for in creation of the child. And ever since I was a kid, I've always noticed, I'm like, doesn't really seem like men like being parents or like their kids or even like children in general. How many men do you know who would choose willingly to work with kids because they really like kids? The nuclear family that was introduced in the 50s with having a two-parent household, a mom and a dad, a heterosexual mother and father, and a boy and a girl. That was like the white picket nuclear family offense. That whole thing ruined so much, my God, because it's not how it's supposed to be. It's even hard to raise one child with two people. And then most of the time it's like the father isn't really even involved that much because men, most of the time it's the women who are doing most of the childcare and the housework anyway. So I would say most women who are married with children are more acting like they're single compared like to what they're doing in the household. Because if you're living with someone, you're doing the same amount of work that you would be doing if you were living alone anyway. Then what the fuck? I honestly think that most men don't like children. They just say they want to have children because it forever binds you to a woman, gives them some sense of control over you and your life, even if it's just perceived. They want it because it makes them look more responsible to other people. If you have a child, doesn't mean you actually are responsible, and it is beneficial for them in their work and in their career. Men are likely to get promotions if they have a family or they have kids and they have a wife. They're more likely to be taken seriously in career and in just in social circles in general. And the whole notion that children who are raised by single parents versus in a two household, they're gonna turn out to be more secure, they're gonna have a higher paying job, they're gonna be better in school, they're just gonna be a more successful human. That's not necessarily true. And the notion too that like, especially like saying that men who grow up in single parent households with their moms like end up being deviant, like criminally deviant, that's mostly rooted, I think, in situations in poverty because there wasn't someone else in the household to help pay for things and to give them better education. Because childhood education when you're growing up is like a huge determining factor of like the rest of your life. Because if you're not educated, if you don't learn how to read well, if you don't learn how to write well, you're not going to do very well in life either, which means you're more likely going to end up in a situation where you need to steal to live, which means leads you into the incarceration system. If you know anything about the incarceration system, once you've been in there once, it's really hard to get back out. But literally think about it. The government had to force men to have them pay for their children. They had to make it illegal not to help their own offspring. Because men really, there's no desire to want or have children, really. I've met very, very few men who I genuinely believe like they would be good parents. And I know that like they like kids. Because another really scary thing is a lot of men who like really want kids and like really want a family, they're just pedophiles. A lot of the nuclear family, I think that was also made to give men who are more access to children. Because the people in power at the time are still like the ones that they are right now in America. Worse, even. So, even if a guy really likes children and like says that he loves children, even be wary of that, because that could be for a completely wrong reason. And that is the reason why, too, a lot of single moms don't date who have kids. And that is why Shira Seven says, don't date if you have kids until they can talk to you and tell you if something bad happens to them. Whole consensus is I don't think men really like kids. They just say they do for social approval because they think that's what women want to hear. They know how easy it is. It's so easy for them to make a kid. They don't have to do anything but have 10 seconds of joy, and then they don't have to do shit. It's so easy for them. There's like a really famous Twitter post, I think, of this woman who is talking about how men want children the way that children want a dog or want pets. They want the idea of a family, of having children, but they don't actually want to raise children. They don't think about where is all this money going to come from that's going to go towards their first 2 years of life. The first 2-3 years of a child's life are like some of the hardest. First year of your life, you're getting less than 60% of like the recommended of sleep. Okay? They really don't think about what goes into it. And but anyway, we were supposed to raise our children in communities together, separate from men, just us. And then once it was safe enough for them to be around, those children to be around anyone, then they could be around the men. But from what I understand, that's what happened. We would be in our own, we'd just be vibing, and then the men would come when we would need them for shit, and then they'd leave. Sounds amazing.